What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. This video is not going to be so much about a mod or something like that. It's actually going to be more of a repair type of thing. I've had some rock chips on the front end. Unfortunately, when I got the Hellcat, I did not put clear PPF film on it, and I did not have it ceramic coated. So with that being the case, I do have some chips that I wanted to get finished or fixed, or fixed myself, whatever the case may be. So I found a product online. The name of the company is called Dr Colorchip. They make a kind of a, I don't know how you would refer to it. It's a kind of a paint correction or a paint fixing system where you don't really have to worry about getting paint all over the place. It's actually really you're supposed to actually do that, and I'll explain more when I actually do this. So let's go ahead and open the box up. I've had this box sitting here in the garage for months. I just haven't been in a position to actually do the repair yet. So now I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. So the way this system works, you basically, I don't know if you can see, but basically put a blob of paint behind where the chip is, and then you use your hand to actually push the paint into the the chipped area, and then you use an activator that will actually soften the paint outside of the chip, and if you do it correctly, it should leave the paint inside the chip. So this is going to be a fun little project to see if I can actually do this right. It is pretty nice. In the kit, they basically send you everything you need. They send you a dirty microfiber towel. This is for wiping the applicator, the application liquid off. They send you a pair of gloves. Actually, this is probably the cloth to wipe it off. That's just a polishing pad. Send you a pair of gloves to use, for doing this. And then they send you the actual paint itself. So the Seal-Act stuff is the stuff you put on the very end. And that's kind of what takes the extra paint off of the panel that you don't want, and it activates the paint that's inside the chip. You can see they do send a couple of dabbing applicators or whatever the case may be. But if you go to their website, there's some detailed instructions on how to use it. They have squeegee method where you put the paint in front of the chip or whatever, and you use a squeegee to push it in. Sometimes they just dab a little drop on the paint and then use their finger to put it in. It all depends on the situation. So let's see what else is in here. I'm not sure what the hell these are. So the paint, so this is actually pretty interesting. They send you a couple of extra, well, at least one extra brush. They actually match, supposedly, the color of the car exactly. And I don't know if you can see that bottle, but the color code at the top of their paint bottle says PVP. That's the Go Mango color code for the Dodge Charger Hellcat. But what this says is that, because this has a purling or a flake in the paint, that purling flake may settle to the bottom. So they send you an extra brush to get down into the bottom and kind of scoop that up and mix it in before you start using it. So, okay, so I'm going to try to show you real quick exactly what I'm going to be working on. I don't know if you'll be able to see this chip up here at the top. The camera zooms in, so you see that one there. That chip, I know exactly when that happened. A friend of mine and I were following each other from Atco, New Jersey Raceway. We had gone up there for a Mopar event, and he had, I should say, a Challenger Hellcat, and on the way back on 295, in Mexico, we were having some fun doing some spirited driving, and at one point in time his drag radials picked up something off the road and shot it back at my car. So that's actually where that happened. It's actually kind of sucks that I know exactly when that happened. Here's another one down here. See if it zooms in here. Okay. So yeah, you can see those two there close together. Actually, I just noticed another one up here. I don't know if that'll show up that well. I think those are it. Up there it is right there. So that one there. And then down along the front lower chin splitter. I don't know if you'll be able to see that one. So that one there. That one, I don't know when that one happened. That one's been there for a while, actually. So yeah, you can see the front end of this car takes a lot of damage. You know, it would have been a good idea to probably wrap this thing from the very beginning, but unfortunately I didn't. So now this is, you know, what I'm left to deal with. Okay, so I'm getting ready to actually start fixing the paint chips. What I did previously, and the reason why there's green tape on the car, is I did go ahead and quickly do a polish. I wanted to make sure the paint was as clean as possible before doing this. So I did a quick polish using my DA polisher and Chemical Guys VSS. I have since also cleaned the areas with an alcohol distilled water mixture to, you know, strip off any residue from the polish. So at this point I'm ready to get started. This is basically the big chip right there. There's a smaller one right there below it. You can see the headlight there as well, so you can get an idea of where it is in relation to the headlight. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Again, you can see that's the big one right there. That's the little one. I'm only going to do that chip, you know, filming it. There are plenty of other videos online about the Dr. Colorchip system and how to do it. You know, the goal of this video is to give you a general idea of how easy it is to use, or maybe how not easy it is to use, depending on what my results are. But anyway, it's not meant to be a full-on instructional video. I'll do a walk around and show you all of the chips repaired, so you can get an idea of how they look after, you know, you've gone through this process. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Going to use what they refer to as the dab and smear approach. The goal isn't to actually put paint into the chip itself. It's put paint onto the car next to the chip and then smear it into the chip itself. So let's see how this works. So you take that and then just smear the paint over. Put a little bit more over here. This is an interesting thing, trying not to get paint on the camera. Not to get it on myself. So again, the goal is to basically dab the paint next to the chip. And then use your gloved hand to smear the paint into the chip. Trying to keep your finger as flat as possible. Let's see here. And the extra paint on the car actually is not supposed to be a problem, because the second step is when you use what they refer to as the seal act, which activates and seals the paint, but it also allows the excess paint to come off the car. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that like that. Let the paint dry for whatever they say, a couple of minutes. They also sell a kit that comes with a squeegee. The squeegee with bigger chips like this probably would have been a better application method. With that, you just drop the paint again behind the chip wherever you want to put it, and then you use a squeegee to squeegee the paint into the chip. It seems like that actually does a much easier job, you know, getting the paint flat into the chip. The one thing that I've noticed with the glove is the glove does not sit perfectly flat, obviously, on your hand. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but you can see the glove obviously is not that straight, so trying to get the paint perfectly straight into the chip is not working all that great. I can do this here. Well, that came out pretty good there. Oh, and then I just wiped it out. Huh. That one was actually looking pretty good, and then I went back in to try to smooth it out a little bit more, and actually took out what was already in there. So it does say when you watch their videos that you know, when you have a chip this deep as mine was, you can do this multiple times until it fills in the chip. I think what I'm probably going to do is this is going to be the last time for that. I'm going to go ahead and let this paint dry now, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the Seal Act to try to take off all that excess paint and see where we end up. Okay, I've waited a couple of minutes, maybe somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes since I put the paint on. The system or the instructions say to wait until the paint is dry to the touch. I checked it; it does seem pretty dry to the touch. So now I'm going to do step 2, which is using their Seal Act solution and a cloth towel to try to get off the excess paint from around the chip and smooth out everything and see how this turns out. It does say that the key to this is to just rubbing smooth, letting the Seal Act actually do its job. Hold it on there for a second. And then I'll try just very gently. I'm not putting any pressure, just letting the product, the Seal Act, work. You can see it is starting to soften up the paint. Supposedly, according to their instructions, this is not supposed to damage the actual car paint. This is a specially formulated solvent to work specifically with softening their paint. They very clearly say in their instructions and some of their videos online that if you were to try to use this Seal Act stuff with another brand of touch-up paint, it's not going to do what it's doing right now on this car. So, you know, I guess what that's saying is, you know, you can be pretty assured that you know, this solvent's not going to, you know, damage the actual factory finish. They actually claim that you could actually use the Seal Act stuff to actually polish the car or, you know, brighten the paint up. But you can definitely see it definitely starts to soften up the extra paint that was on the body panel. There's definitely some extra paint chips or pieces of, you know, the paint coming off. You can see that the touch-up paint that was on is actually coming off in flakes from where it's coming off the body panels. So they do provide a microfiber towel to kind of clean up after the fact. So I'm going to actually clean some of this up. The chip itself is definitely filled in. Okay, so you can still see the chip itself because, like I said, it was a very deep chip in the paint. I'm definitely going to have to do this multiple times. Certainly not going to do it on camera multiple times, but you can see that it is filling in the paint pretty good. I mean, I think it's a pretty good color match, you know, with the Go Mango color. So I'm going to go ahead and finish working on this one off camera and finish working on the rest of the chips off camera, and then when I'm done everything, I will come back and show you guys the final finished product. Okay, I finished all my touch-up of the big chips that I had on the front end. There's a ton of smaller chips, but after working on the bigger ones, I decided to leave them alone, no matter how much it irks me that they're there. But you know, at the end, you know, as you can see from the car at a distance, a regular viewing distance, you can't really see, you know, the chips that were repaired. You know, there was the one down on the lower air splitter. Don't see that one anymore from the distance. Come back around here to the other corner. You know, again, there was that big one at the top right under the headlight. Sorry, the heater just kicked on. Under the headlight, there was a big chip there. One down here along the body line, and then one up there by the turn signal, or I'm sorry, the marker light. So, like I said, at normal viewing distance, you can't really see it. You can't really see them anymore. However, you know, they are still there. If you get right up on top of it, I don't know if you'll be able to see them or not. Let's see here. Wow. Oh, there it is. So, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. Pan the camera around a little bit. But, you know, being right up on top of the car, you can still see them. I mean, obviously, this isn't the same as repainting the car, so, you know, the chip is still there. If you get close enough to it, right on top of the, you know, right on top of where the chip is, you can still see, you know, on the front of this car, the bumper is actually black. So you can see a little bit of the black outline. So, I mean, all in all, I think it does a decent job for what it, you know, says that it's going to do. You know, it does fill in the chip, but, you know, it doesn't make it completely invisible. It's not like repainting the car. So overall, from my perspective, what I would say is, you know, the Dr. Colorchip product, overall, you know, they does pretty much what they say it'll do. Fills in the chips. It's easy to use. You know, you put the paint into the chip, you let it dry, and then you use the Seal-Act liquid to, you know, remove the excess paint. It does exactly like it says when it, you know, for that perspective. Doesn't damage any of the other paint on the car, so none of the body color, you know, factory paint, none of that was damaged. So I mean, ease of use is definitely pretty easy. The one thing I would say is that if you're going to buy a kit to do your car, I would get the kit with the squeegee. Trying to use the brush to dab the paint on next to the chip and then using your finger to put the paint into the chip is kind of a pain in the ass. So I would definitely recommend using the squeegee instead of the, you know, the dab and smear technique that they talk about. I started using a squeegee that I had to do it for this car as well. You know, one final takeaway that I would say after having done this, you know, if your car's new or your car doesn't get driven a lot or your car has low mileage, my recommendation is to avoid having to do any kind of chip repair from the very beginning and get the car wrapped. Get some clear PPF put on the front end, and I think that, you know, at the end of the day, you'll be much happier. You know, my car has 8,600 miles on it now, and I'm kicking myself in the ass that I didn't do that. So, you know, if there's anything you take away from this video, you know, the Dr. Colorchip system, it works. You know, from the perspective of does it fill in the chip? Yes. Their paint is actually a very good match. I will say that, you know, you give them the Dodge, well, in my case, you give them the Dodge color code, and the paint they send is pretty much a perfect match. I'm definitely happy with the color aspect of what they sent. But at the end of the day, I know the chips are still there. If you get close enough to the car, you can still see the chips. You know, so when I detail this thing, it's going to just eat at my soul knowing that these chips are there. But again, that's not a thing on the product. That's not a negative on the product. That's, you know, it's just the facts. The chip is there, and unless I get a brand new bumper or have this thing professionally painted, it's going to be what it is. So again, if you take anything from this video, go out, either get your car ceramic coated, but I don't think ceramic coating is going to stop chips. I would say go out and get the front end, at least the front end, you know, clear wrapped, you know, with Expel or any of the other, you know, clear PPF films, I think you'd be much better off than trying to fix the damage after the fact. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel.